Welcome to the Deck Chef YouTube channel, the most flavorful Magic the Gathering Commander channel on the internet. I'm your Deck Chef, and I'll be your guide through the succulent journey of Commander deck brewing. My process is simple: lead with flavor, balance of function, and make sure to season with fun all the way through. Many of the decks on the channel are my personal decks, which means they've been tried, tested, and tasted along the way to make sure they're peak flavor. But this one's new. This is a deck that I have not tried, and I have not tested, and I have not tasted. But I liked it so much that I had to build a recipe for it. Alex Wilder Runaway is a 2-mana 1/3 human hero villain from the Jumpstart set from Marvel Superheroes. And he says when him or another creature enters, if it casts from anywhere from their hand, it gets +2 and gains haste until end of turn. He also has an escape cost for 3 and exile 3 other cards from your graveyard so you can cast them from your graveyard. Whether you cast them from the command zone or the graveyard, he's going to come in and be a 3/3 that swings in with haste. I like Alex because not only does it lean to a mechanic that Red is getting a lot more attention lately, and frankly, there's so many different ways to utilize it. It's because he's an under-the-radar commander. He is not a commander that people are going to look at when you pass them on the table and go, okay, I need to kill that right away. They're going to use their removal for other bigger spells like the Ur-Dragon or Ishtola or Thor or Doctor Doom, something that is going to be an immediate threat. A dragon is definitely going to get more heat than Alex Wilder. Because of that, he is going to get a lot more incremental value, and giving your creatures haste is very, very good. Red can do that so many other ways, but it's a unique effect that the only way that you can give haste to your creatures in this deck by casting them from exile. And there's lots of creatures that can be cast from exile. There's a lot of mechanics that do that. Cascade will let you cast a spell from exile, so the creatures you cascade into with any of these will have haste. The same is true for adventure cards. You cast the spell, put the creature in exile, and you can cast it later for its exile cost. There's a bunch of creatures with adventures on them. There's also cards of mayhem, specifically Abomination. It lets you discard if you discard the card this turn, you can cast it for its mayhem cost from your graveyard, which would give it haste with Alex. Madness is another interesting one because people forget that the card that you discard with the madness cost is cast from exile. So anytime you cast a madness creature in this deck, it's going to get haste. Discover, very similar. You will be discovering into creatures and giving those creatures haste. And that's also escape. There's other escape creatures. Not many of them are good, but they will fit the bill, especially if you can give them that power boost, and if you find a way to give them the trample. Some cards are interesting here. That's Sabine can be cast from the graveyard by his blitz cost. So you can cast him from your hand, sacrifice him to his blitz cost, and then next turn pay the mana, discard a card, and return him again. And that will give him haste and double strike, which is pretty good. So yeah, there's a bunch of cards in here that just have that natural ability to be cast from exile. But there's also a ton of cards in red that let you cast from exile. Things like Nico Minoru, who is a really popular card right now. People are talking a lot about her. Her price tag kind of represents it, but even in the past couple hours since I've looked at this deck, her price has gone down. So just wait it out, and eventually the card will become affordable. But she does do something interesting. I mean, she's 3 mana for 2/4, 4 mana for a 2/4. That says whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, she deals 2 damage to each opponent. So that counts your commanders, all the blitz cards, all the cascade cards. It's going to add up. But because of that, Nico is going to catch way more heat than Alex will. Her ability to also tap, pay 3 mana, discard a card to exile cards and cast another giant spell for free is not good. Is definitely going to draw her ire as well. So yeah, she's a very, very good card. She's perfect for the deck. She's thematically appropriate. Sword Chase Stein, who lets you discard a card, exile top card of the library, you can play it until your next turn. Again, sort of effect you've seen before, but it's on a low mana value creature. If he doesn't get wiped out by some tiny board wipe, he will make you, pay you back over time. Molly Hayes is the fourth runaway in the deck, besides the commander. She's a 3 mana 3/3, not particularly good, but her power up lets her put 2 counters on her and exile top card and cast it. So yeah, the theme is to cast things from exile. So what do we have that can cast from exile? Well, the first thing we'll discuss are the battles. There are 4 battles that we're playing in this deck. Each one of the battles is a permanent that comes in, does a thing, then goes into play under an opponent's control. They basically watch the battle. It has an amount of life equal to that little number in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can deal damage to it, or your opponents can deal damage to it, but if they do, you get to cast it from exile. It flips over, you get to cast it from exile for free, which means that if it's a turn where you can attack with it, Alex will give it haste. And if it's not, it will just be a free spell that you cast from exile, which will trigger a bunch of other stuff in the deck. So yeah, a couple of them are removal, like this one, and then turns into a prowess creature. This dragon one, also removal, and then turns into a dragon, which flying tramplers that have haste are pretty good. And then there's some that actually work as rummaging effects. The Invasion of Mercadia lets you discard a card to draw 2 cards, so you can discard something like Anger or a Madness creature, and then get 2 cards off it. At the same time, it will flip into another rummaging effect that will let you, well, not rummaging effect, but discard effect, discard outlet that lets you make creatures and pump your creatures. So yeah, these cards are really interesting that you can actually run them all in this deck, and they will actually all help Alex. But as we go through the creatures, we were talking earlier about creatures that benefit from being cast from exile, casting things from exile, or enable things to cast from exile. But benefits first are like Arax Empress of Mars, which makes you creatures when you cast things from anywhere in your hand. It's got Paradox, and a mechanic from the Doctor Who set. She also can pump your team. She attacks. So you're going to have a wide board at some point, and then things like Araxa or Doomscar Titan are going to just like pump the whole team and swing in. Keeper of Secrets is another great card that rewards you for playing cards from exile. It deals damage with the spells that you cast from exile. Nephelgeny is another counts that cards that spell from exile. You get to copy them. If it's a permanent, you get it for a turn, but then it gets sacrificed. But you will definitely do something with it once you cast it. Likely to attack, especially if it also has haste. Lelia gets counters when you exile cards, and she lets you exile a card every turn to cast it that turn. She's one of the few cards that has the until end of turn as opposed to until your next turn. But it doesn't matter. She's gonna give you a little bit more gas as the game goes by. If we go down, there's more cards that have Cascade, lets you cast spells from exile, and deals damage. Ignite the Future lets you cast cards from exile, and it can be cast from your graveyard. Hit the Motherlord lets you discard cards or discover cards, and then you can cast one of them for free. Hex Magic is a new card. It says exile all cards from your hand, then draw that many cards until the end of your next turn. You may play the cards. So if you have enough mana, you can end up putting a bunch of hasters onto the battlefield in the late game. Delayed Blast Fireball is kind of essential in decks like this. It's another foretell card like the Giant I showed you earlier. And if you cast it from exile, you deal damage to everything. It's a really fun board wipe. It's expensive, but it's kind of very, very helpful in this deck. Jessica's Will is another. It's probably the only game changer in the deck, but it gets you the mana you need to cast your other spells. It can get you 3 extra spells. I mean, this card it's a game changer for a reason. It's a good card. The other sub-theme in the deck, which is kind of funny, and if you've read the Runaways story, you will see why they're here. You'll understand why they're here. There are giants in this deck. I mean, not only do some of them, like Quakebringer, foretell, and Doomscar Titan, they both foretell. They pump your giants, but they also are cards you cast from exile, so they'll get haste. This one also makes it so your opponents can't gain life, which is pretty helpful when you're trying to just burn your opponents out. Or deal lots and lots of damage, and when you only have one turn to do it, you want to make the most of it. But the reason they're giants is because Alex's family, who were supervillains, made a pact apparently with the Nephilim, which are basically like giants of legend. So that's why we have giants in here for him, like Calamity Bearer, which makes your giant sources deal more damage, and Doomscar Titan. We got a Hilgigas in here for the mountain cycling, and the fact that it's a big old giant that looks fairly Babylonian in its shape and size, so that works for him. Grabby Giant also is an adventure giant, Bone Crusher Giant, which isn't very good, but later on, having a 6/3 trampler for 3 mana is pretty good if you're just trying to close out the game. Also, you get to kill a weenie when you put it on an adventure. Abomination doesn't really count as a giant, but he looks like a giant, so I'm counting him. Two-Headed Hunter is a giant. Tectonic Giant lets you exile cards, deals damage to your opponents, and is a giant. I mean, it fits all the bills on this one. And then we have cards that let you play cards from exile, like Plarg and Asari. They let you play your opponent's spells, and so does Atali. those are great because they might have something way more interesting to give haste to. So if you cast your opponent's stuff and it has it's a creature and you can cast it for free and it has haste, that is darn good. Bonehorn Dracosaur and Dragonhawk both get you lots of cards on the top of your deck, give you benefits for exiling cards, let you play those cards, and or flyers. Obviously, we want our creatures to have haste, so we have anger in here. The discard strategies and some of the cards will let you just discard it away. To that end, we have some cards here like Faithless Looting, and Demand Answers and Laughing Mad, which lets you discard cards to draw cards. They're mostly instants, which means you can, do them on your opponent's turn, set stuff up for the next turn. We also have, a little bit of interaction in terms of Vandal Blast, which gets rid of a lot of rocks and kind of like helps you to kind of bridge the gap between you and like the more competitive or tuned decks. Blasphemous Act is a board wipe. It's classic. It's excellent. It will save you in a pinch. Light Up the Stage is another exile card. If you're dealing damage, you can, put some cards in exile, cast it for cheaper. Untimely Malfunction can help save your general or something better. In the meantime, we have a couple enchantments in the deck. Passionate Archaeologist is sort of like the demon. It's sort of like Keeper of Secrets. It deals, if you have your commander out, when you cast a spell from exile, it deals damage equal to that spell's mana cost to target opponent. It's not everybody, but it can definitely deal a lot of damage. Bitter Reunion is another discard outlet that lets you give all your creatures haste if Alex isn't out. And Blood Moon, it's a mono red deck. It's a great way to punish people who are using expensive mana bases while you're trying to like catch up. Same with Price of Progress. This can actually kill people at the end of the game. And it's only 2 mana, so if you end up exiling it like later in the game, it's gonna be able to take out one person and then maybe just swing in with the other spells you exile. But yeah, Blood Moon denying the mana, it's not fun, but it also is something that they're going to have to get rid of, and it might give you time to sort of like build up what you need to attack for, significant damage. Again, red is not that tricky. It's pretty straightforward. You're casting these spells for exile. You're attacking with them. It's a cut and dry, tried and true way to deal damage. It's spicy. But you have to be able to like temper that spice with like actual things that you need, which is why some of these battles are pretty good because they actually fill the vegetable role. They deal damage or they draw cards, so you can at least like play some of the fun cards you want. A Sushi I looked at earlier lets you exile cards from the library and play those cards, gives you treasures when it dies. It's a 4/4 flying dragon with trample. It's just a good card. And speaking of trample is also an important keyword that we kind of overlook. The fact that Archetype of Aggression can take your opponent's trample away and give you evasion to your creatures is very good. That +2 bonus then becomes a lot more useful, especially if you started clearing the board or you slowed them down with other stuff. So yeah, it's a card you definitely want to take a look at. I have Skyfire Phoenix in the deck because it's a flyer with haste and your commander is very small and very low to the ground, so you can probably get it back multiple times, and be able to plug in to the non-flying blockers a couple turns. Stormcrook Cultist is a madness creature that lets you trample in for damage and lets you exile cards to play them. Party Thrasher is a new card that came out a year or so ago. It says non-creature spells you cast from exile have Convoke, which is pretty good if you end up cascading, or rather exiling impulsive drawing into spells that you need to cast by tapping creatures. And it lets you discard cards and exile cards, every main phase, which is another thing that people are going to kind of just like ignore because like you're, losing card advantage, but you're gaining, creature advantage if you have Alex out. So it's a helpful card in this deck. There's a little bit of something for everybody in this deck. As far if you like red and you like to swing in for damage, Alex finds ways to do it that are a little more unique than just simply plugging in with dragons or stomping in with giants. He gives you a little bit of both, and he gives you a little bit of bonus. And he rewards you for being clever about your deck construction, which is what I like. That's the type of deck I like, is where we have to find things that make the deck work, but we also want to really lean into the theme and the flavor. And I think Alex is kind of perfect for that. Our mana base is really simple. We have a hidden volcano because it's got discover attached to it. We have 33 mountains, a spine rock knoll which lets you cast spells from exile, and an arena of glory because I had one, and because being able to add an extra 2 mana to play a spell from exile on a turn that like you didn't think you had the mana to play it is pretty darn good. So yeah, that's it. I will let you know how this deck plays. I will probably build it in paper. So if anybody's curious and they want to ask about it in a couple weeks, I'll let you know how it played. Hopefully I'll have it ready or proxied up by Friday. But that's all for now. We'll be back in a couple days with another deck tech. We're going to do 2 a week now. So, remember to like, follow, and subscribe, and bon appetit.